Yes, it's John G. Sutton, Tales from the Jail. Thank you very much for continuing to make some very appropriate comments and for following my Tales from the Jails. Today I'm going to talk about, suggested to me by somebody in a comment, that I discuss the strange case of Mary Bell. Now, when I worked at Strangeways, I was sent on secondment to work for a period of time at Stile Prison in Cheshire, which is a serious Category A prison and various other grades of prisons for females. And what was happening there was they were refurbishing the heating system there, and I was there as part of the security staff to make sure that the contractors didn't interact with the inmates and that the inmates did not interact with the contractors. And whilst I was working there, one of the inmates, who was a red band at the time, worked on the gardens and the general tidying up the interior areas of the prison, was an inmate called Mary Bell. Now, Mary Bell was notorious as a killer, one of, well, perhaps certainly one of the youngest convicted killers in Britain. At the time, she was 11 years old when she committed the offences in 1968. And I recognise Mary Bell. And let me show you a picture of Mary Bell, and I'll tell you a little bit about her crimes. I don't know if you can see this image there. Can you see that image? Yeah. That is Mary Bell as she was when she was arrested in 1968 at the age of 11 years. And she was not found guilty of murder. She was found guilty of manslaughter, 2 cases of manslaughter. The first killing, that she'd previously attempted to strangle 3 young girls. She was obviously a sadistic, violent individual, but she'd come from a very strange family. Her mother was a prostitute, her father was a violent drunk. She was an unwanted child. Her mother had tried to get rid of her on a number of occasions. She was consistently being injured by her mother. Nobody actually proved anything, but obviously this had a psychological effect upon Mary Bell. And at the age of 11, around about the age of 11, she started to try and violently interact with local children. 3 children she tried to strangle. The police cautioned her and the family, but they didn't take any other action. Subsequently, she murdered a boy, a 4-year-old boy, killed him by strangulation. His name was Martin Brown, and he was 4 years old. And she subsequently broke into a property, an empty property, and left notes on the walls. I murder so I can return. And you bastards, screws, we killed Martin Brown, and stuff like that written on the walls. The police did see this, but they discounted it as being a prank. Subsequently, she murdered a boy called Brian Howe. She wasn't initially arrested for Martin Brown's murder, but she killed a boy called Brian, who was about the same age, maybe 3, and he was strangled and found in a broken down house on a building kind of site, covered with rubble and basic shrubs, that she'd ripped up. It was definitely Mary Bell that did this. They found that not only had Brian Howe been strangled, his genitals had been mutilated, and the initial M had been carved into his stomach. So not only had Mary Bell strangled this little boy, she'd mutilated his genitals and carved her initial on his stomach. Mary Bell subsequently confessed to this, and at Newcastle on Tyne Crown Court she was sentenced to imprisonment, and she served in junior establishments and was transferred in 1969 to a secure unit for young offenders called Red Bank at Newton-le-Willows in Lancashire. Now, my father was a detective sergeant, I believe, or detective inspector at the time, and Mary Bell made complaints that she was being sexually molested by the staff there, and my father went to investigate, interviewed Mary Bell, and found that there was nothing to substantiate allegations. Could not prove that what she was saying, but he said, I remember talking to my father about this, he said she is a very strange character. Didn't go into any further details about that. He said, but I personally did not believe her and could not find anything to substantiate her allegations. Could have been that she was attempting to manipulate the situation, or we don't know. But I know that my father, Detective Inspector Frank Sutton, investigated that. Well, strange enough, it was around about 1978, I believe it was, could have been 77, that I was one of the officers were sent from Strange Ways to work at Style, and Mary Bell was on the cleaning, the ground maintenance staff there. She had a very close cropped, light coloured hair at the time. She didn't look anything like she did in that picture I showed you when she was 11. Anyway, subsequently Mary Bell was released, I believe, in 1980. I think she was 23 at the time, and she's made a life for herself outside of the system, and has got a child of her own, yeah, and I believe a grandchild as well, and apparently they know very little about the true identity, because she's using a pseudonym, the true identity of Mary Flora Bell. There's a book out there, I highly recommend you read it. It's called The Strange Case of Mary Bell. I see today that in the news that some poor lady at 27 years of age has died in a prison in Scotland. She was on remand waiting for sentence, I believe, or waiting for trial in Scotland. They found her dead in her cell. Details have not been released, but they say that there is nothing suspicious about her death, so apparently that was clear cut. So one doesn't but I mean, there are many deaths. I mean, there's more suicides among female prisoners than there are among male prisoners. Tragic case. So there, somebody asked me to discuss The Strange Case of Mary Bell, and that's it. Look it up. You get the book on Amazon or eBay perhaps now, because it'll be out of print, I should imagine. But The Strange Case of Mary Bell. And I have to warn you all now that there's something about to happen that you've all been dreading. Yes, not very dingy dongy today, is it? The song dear. That's better. Yeah. So as it's 45 years this week since the death of Elvis Presley, I'm going to continue with the theme. We've already had Heartbreak Hotel and All Shook Up. So what we're going to do today is one of his best-selling songs, which I believe is one of his most famous songs, Are You Lonesome Tonight? And believe this or not, I performed this. I know you decry my singing, but I performed this live on television. I think it was in 1999, something like that, 98. I had a book published called Star Signs for You and Your Pet. And it was featured on a program called Fully Booked on BBC Two. And when they phoned me up, I spoke to the producer and they said, we'd like you to come on to discuss your book, published by Bloomsbury. No, not that, that was Psychic Pets by Bloomsbury. This was published by Element Penguin. And they said, we'd like you to come on. I said, well, why don't I bring my bulldog? They said, you've got a bulldog? I said, yes, I had. And at the time, I did have a bulldog. And her name was Grumbles. Grumbles the bulldog. I said, I've got a bulldog that is an Elvis impersonator. An Elvis impersonating bulldog? I said, yeah, she absolutely loves the voice of Elvis. And when I sing, she joins me in the song. So I said, would you bring Grumbles onto the show? Oh, yeah, certainly. So I got my wife to make Grumbles a golden cape with a golden stick-up collar and a golden cape that dangled down, and fastened it round her collar. And took her to the studios were in Glasgow, I believe, yeah, at the side of the River Clyde. So I went there to film this, and I was interviewed by the people on Fully Booked. I think Ant and Dec were on at the time, and I was interviewed by the people on Fully Booked, and they said, tell us a little bit about your Elvis impersonating bulldog. Of course, Grumbles was there with a golden cape on. I said, oh yeah, she sings along with me doing Elvis songs. Would you sing for us? I said, oh, certainly, yeah. So I gave them a couple of verses, well, maybe the first verse of Are You Lonesome Tonight? And Grumbles just sat there looking at me with a tongue hanging out, because it was red hot in the studios, So at the end of it, the producer said to me, that was absolutely hilarious. But he said, how come the dog didn't sing? I said, well, I did tell you that she was an Elvis impersonator, but I never said she was any good at it. Seriously. That's true, that. Yeah. It must be on the net somewhere. Grumbles, the Elvis impersonating bulldog. Anyway, now it's John G. Sutton, the Elvis impersonating Tales from the Jails teller. I'm going to do Are You Lonesome Tonight? I'll kill this one. Yeah. Are you ready? Are you sitting comfortably? Good. Then I shall begin. Are you lonesome tonight? Do you miss me tonight? Are you sorry we drifted apart? Does your memory stray through a bright summer day when I kissed you and called you sweetheart? Do the chair in your parlor seem empty and bare? Do you gaze at your doorstep and picture me there? Is your heart filled with pain? Shall I come back again? Tell me, dear, are you lonesome tonight? I wonder if you're lonesome tonight. Someone said all the world's a stage and each must play his part. Fate had me playing in love with you as my sweetheart. Act 1 was where we met and I loved you at first glance. You read your lines so cleverly and never missed a cue. Then came Act 2. You seemed to change, you acted strange, and why? I'll never know. Honey, you lied when you said you loved me, and I had no cause to doubt you. But I'd rather go on hearing your lies than to go on living without you. Now the stage is bare, and I'm standing there with emptiness all around. And if you won't come back to me, then they can bring the curtain down. Is your heart filled with pain? Shall I come back again? Tell me, dear, are you lonesome tonight? Ooh, there you go. Are You Lonesome Tonight by John G. Sutton. I hope you've liked, endured, all the rest of it, subscribed, and thank you very much. We'll meet again.